Clayton's jump jiving over here.
I am. I think the coffee just hit in. Come on, baby.
Good morning.
Come on in. Come on in.
Day two.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome into Fox and Friends on this Sunday morning, everyone. Sandra Smith back with us this morning.
Good morning.
And you look lovely in green, by the way.
By the way, thank you for having me back. I wasn't sure after yesterday.
Yesterday was a tryout.
Right. We kind of talked about it throughout the afternoon. Yeah. You kind of got in under the wire, I got to admit.
Hilarious. We had fun.
No one else.
We had to get a third. We had to break the vote with a third person. Clayton was for. I was against.
Right.
See how I'm treated around here?
You know what? Frankly, no one else was up and awake and available. So thank you so much. Thanks, pal.
Absolutely.
We love her.
Hey, we've got a jam-packed show we got to get to this morning.
We sure do.
So much going on. A big weekend of news, and then a big week coming up on Capitol Hill, by the way.
Well, that's exactly right. So last week, of course, you had James Comey testifying. Then you had President Trump fighting back in the Rose Garden. Now you have the White House continuing to fight back because they're saying Attorney General Jeff Sessions will testify on Tuesday of this upcoming week in front of the Senate Intelligence Community. He was set to testify in front of the House and Senate Budget Committees, but he will be sending his deputy to those and instead going straight to the very same committee that Comey testified to set the record straight. Because there was a lot of accusations, not just at President Trump, but at the Attorney General as well from Comey.
Absolutely, because James Comey saying basically I didn't trust him.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that he was going to leave the room, he gets out and leaves the room. Actually, let's listen to what he had to say this week about Sessions. Take a listen.
Are you saying that you also told him that he had made a request that you let it go with regard to part of the investigation of Michael Flynn?
No, I specifically did not. I did not. Our judgment, as I recall, was that he was very close to and inevitably going to recuse himself for a variety of reasons. We were convinced, and in fact, I think we'd already heard that the career people were recommending that he recuse himself, that he was not going to be in contact with Russia-related matters much longer. And that turned out to be the case.
Well, the response now from the Trump administration over the weekend, Saturday night, late last night, they're making some news down in Washington. And here's the letter from Jeff Sessions. In light of reports regarding Mr. Comey's recent testimony before the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, it is important that I have an opportunity to address these matters in the appropriate forum. So June 13th, he will testify.
Yeah, I think it's an important move. I mean, ultimately, Comey said of Sessions, one, he shouldn't have left the room. Remember, it was a private conversation between the FBI director, and that he didn't feel like he could tell the Attorney General Sessions what he thought because he thought Sessions was biased or was eventually going to recuse himself. So even if he did feel, remember, on May 3rd, in testimony, you had James Comey saying he never was asked to end an investigation for political reasons. Yet now he's changing his tune, saying, well, I felt pressured. At that moment, he said nothing to the Attorney General.
And then Donald Trump Jr. going on with Judge Jeanine on Justice last night to defend his father, going as far as calling James Comey a dishonest man of bad character. Watch this.
When I see what's going on right now, when I see what went on for 10 months with the Russia nonsense and the smear, and then we see what happens on Thursday, it's like, give me a break. I mean, they're literally spent 10 months chasing a rabbit down a hole with essentially the sole purpose to try to take down my father. I think it's clear that, everything that went on in the Comey testimony was basically ridiculous. I think he's proven himself to be a liar in all of this. I think he's proven himself to be a dishonest man of bad character.
So obviously not holding back there. His family.
This is the tactic. I mean, this is the tactic now from this side, which is smear James Comey. Say he's a bad guy, bad character, that he's weak, he's spineless, that he's the leaker, he's the guy that where all these leaks are coming from. I wonder if it's a good strategy for them.
It's the tactic because it's the tactic that's been waged against them by the deep state and by Comey and by the press and by the Democrats endlessly since the inauguration. So they're saying, listen, you've been trying to indict us. We're pointing out the fact that Comey's waffled all over the place, and he admitted to being the leaker, as you said, Clayton. I mean, this is a guy who said, I had a private conversation with the president, I wrote it down, I put it in my drawer, then I pulled it out and gave it to the New York Times to benefit myself.
But we've had intelligence guys here on the show who are friends with Comey.
Right.
Former members of the FBI say, Comey's a great guy. I've worked with him for years. He's a stand-up guy. He's an honorable guy. And I don't know. Obviously, the Trump administration has had some difficulties with the intelligence community in the past. I don't know if this helps or hurts them. We're going to have some guests on the show a little bit later to dive into that question.
We've certainly heard both sides. And an op-ed caught our eye in the New York Post by Michael Goodwin. He put some of the he sort of connected some of the dots and said, on the leaking, there's something in common on all of this. It's both the author of the articles in the New York Times and the leaker. Here's a quote from an op-ed written in the New York Times by Michael Goodwin. He said, if Comey didn't trust a duly elected president, the honorable thing would be to do would be to resign. But Comey was not honorable. Instead, he was a sneaky note taker, collecting grievances as insurance for himself. He colluded with the anti-Trump media, which recognized the FBI director as a kindred spirit. He cemented their brotherhood with leaks.
So what exactly is he talking about here? It's the same author in the New York Times reporting this story, and we heard from the James Comey testimony, of course, that he had given this diary entry basically to his friend. And here are these headlines that wound up in the New York Times from the same author of these articles. On March 5th, Comey asks Justice Department to reject Trump's wiretapping claim. Then on May 11th, that other story, in a private dinner, Trump demanded loyalty. Comey demurred. One of my favorite words, but. And then another one, Comey memo says Trump asked him to end Flynn investigation.
And as you pointed out, again, all the same author, Michael Schmidt. So,
Right.
These leaks aren't rocket science, right? If you know somebody who can get information to a bylined author of the New York Times, that author, and maybe with others, put together a story with unnamed sources, and it makes the front page of the New York Times. And if you just start to pull back these articles and look at where they come from, they're all pro-Comey. They're all from the same author. They all involve anonymous leaks from high-level sources in the intelligence community or the Justice Department. I mean, it may turn out that James Comey, as much as people may want to think he's the honorable guy, he was actually king leaker all along, trying to take down a president that he thought was dishonest, that he didn't believe in. That's part of the argument that's being made.
So this is going to shape up to be an incredible week, really. You've already heard from his family defending him, and then Jeff Sessions, of course, we'll hear from him later this week. But then there's this, Shakespeare in the Park.
Oh, I love
Shakespeare. May I remind you,
Shakespeare in the Park.
Taxpayer-funded, depicting the assassination of President Trump. And obviously, if they're okay with this, will its corporate sponsors stand by this art ahead of its official opening on Monday night? Of course, all of this happening in the wake of the recent Kathy Griffin scandal.
So, yeah, this is happening at the Public Theater. This is a Shakespeare in the Park, and this guy is portraying Donald Trump.
That's right. These are plays that go on in Central Park. This guy on the left they're not calling him President Trump, but every attribute from the hair to the long tie to the open jacket is meant to depict someone that looks exactly like President Trump. This is taxpayer funded, both city, state, and federal dollars for this play. What you see right there is our president being stabbed to death as part of an assassination plot in this play in Central Park that debuts tomorrow night. And so the question is, would this ever be acceptable of any other president, especially Barack Obama or anyone else? But with President Trump, 4 months, 5 months into his term, we're seeing him stabbed to death in Central Park as an acceptable part of art that we pay for?
And will corporate sponsors that are involved with this, will they be held accountable for depicting a violent death of our U.S. president?
Yeah,
That's right.
Well, and, are they even aware half the time when they put their money behind something like this? Now I'm sure that they are aware of this, that they might be starting to pull support. Bank of America, Delta, New York Times, among the corporate sponsors, American Express on that list. I mean, it's despicable. Haven't we learned anything from the Kathy Griffin issue over the past 2 weeks? Regardless of what party you're in, even independent, you don't ever do something like this. This is the President of the United States. It's off limits.
Disagree with them all you want. I don't get it. You're exactly right, Clayton. Where's the self-awareness? Really? Right. Just basic. You can really despise this guy's policies and not like him. Maybe you resist. That's fine. It's your right as an American. But to depict the stabbing of a president, I don't think there's anyone out there that would say, wow, I want to go see Shakespeare what's it called?
Shakespeare in the Park.
In the Park.
So to remind everybody, Bank of America, Delta Airlines, by the way, great point, by the way, a lot of people do bring their families to these events. The New York Times, American Express, another one of the corporate sponsors there. So we asked the question, will they be held accountable? Will they take themselves out of it? What might you guess? Well,
and President Trump was slammed for cutting the budget of the NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts. That's the organization that funds stuff like this. When the public taxpayers, when they had a taxpayer budget, they say, I'm paying for this? You can understand why people are.
Let us know your thoughts. Friends at FoxNews.com. You can weigh in on that.
All right. Well, good morning again, everybody. Turning now to your headlines and a Fox News alert. 3 Army Rangers shot and killed in Afghanistan. 1 other Ranger was wounded. The gunman, an Afghan soldier. The Taliban claiming credit for Saturday's deadly attack. Vice President Mike Pence spoke about the